Hey crafty people, welcome back to my channel, and in case you're new here, I'm Sarah, also known as Craft Nerd because I'm a nerd who loves to craft. I do paper crafting, card making, junk journaling, and mixed media art. Let's get crafting! Well, welcome back. In case you're new to my channel, for the entire month of March 2025, I am going to be participating in Ceri the Crafter's Mixed Media March 25 Challenge, which involves creating a project every day in the month of March, incorporating gel printing. And so on March 1st, I started work on creating pieces to go into a mini field notebook for travels in a Wonderland-esque kind of realm. And so we're creating samples of flora and fauna from that world. So today I want to create some specimen slides for that project, or one specimen slide since I need 31 projects for this month. I've been breaking things out, which I would normally do all together in one video. And so I've got a piece of coffee dyed paper. Now there are a variety of dyes out there that create specimen slides. I in fact have the Tim Holtz one, but I wanted to show you how you could do this project if you don't have one of those specialty dyes. And I'm gonna use, this is one of the pieces created in my March 1st video for creating, we did some ID cards for the specimens collected, and now we're gonna do some specimen slides for specimens collected. So this is about how wide I want to make all of my specimen slides. And so that's about 3.5 inches. So I'm gonna cut this piece down to 3.5 inches. I'm just trying to decide, for the first one, we're gonna use our specimen's going to be a bit of die cut leaf. So I think we should be fine cutting it this way. So let's just cut it down to 3.5 inches? Yes, I did. I'm gonna cut this down to 3.5 inches. That's how wide our slide's gonna be, and we're gonna put that on there. Now we need to decide how big we want our window in our specimen to be. And I want it to be rectangular. So I'm having a bit of a think. I'm gonna put my specimen in like so, which I think I may need a bigger specimen for this slide, because this piece broke off when I die cut this guy out. So I was thinking that can be our little specimen. So do 3 inches up. That looks like that might work. All right, so we're gonna cut this down to 6 inches because we're gonna need to fold it in half. So your basic math for this project is decide how wide you want it. Cut your paper down to that width. Decide how tall you want it and then double that. So since we're doing one that's 3 inches high, I cut it down at 6. Then fold your piece in half. And then we're gonna have our little bit on there. And then you need to cut an opening in it. You're gonna wanna leave probably at least 1/4 inch on either side for your gluing down. So let's go ahead, and I'm gonna grab a pencil and do a line across our top. There's 1/4 inch that way. I'm gonna draw a line across here because that's more than 1/4 inch, so that's plenty of space there. And I'm thinking on the sides, I might do 1/2 inch. I think I'm gonna like the look of that better. So we're just gonna do 1/2 inch here. Half inch here. And then we're gonna cut that out as our window. Let me get a metal ruler. You don't wanna use an acrylic ruler unless it's got, here's my, this one has a metal piece in the edge of it, because if you use a blade with an acrylic ruler, you're going to shave off bits of your acrylic ruler. So I'm going to leave it folded in half, kind of burnish that down a little bit more so that I can cut through both layers at once. And I'm going to grab my fingertip knife and just cut out a window. So you might want to have to go, you might have to go over it a couple times to get it all the way through your paper. But it's better to do that than to like try and cram your blade through. Now, if you don't have an X-Acto knife or any other kind of like blade like this, you could use scissors. What you'd want to do is dig your scissors into the center and cut to the corners to cut it out, and that'll make it a little easier. But it's definitely using a blade is preferable just because it's a little easier to cut out neatly a window with a blade than it is with a pair of scissors, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Went a little bit past, but I'm okay with that. It's not going to be a big deal. I can always stick something on there to reinforce that spot. All right, let's make sure we're cut out all the way everywhere. There's a few spots we missed. Just going to go in and finish up those cuts where I need to. All right, so there's the base of our slide. I am gonna round the corners, where should my corner rounder go? I'm gonna use the smallest setting because I just want a little bit of rounding to those corners. And I'm not gonna do the bottom because we gotta add this piece first. That. I do want to grab an eraser and erase my pencil marks. All right, so next step is we need our glass for our slide. And what I'm using is I've got, where did I put it? I just had it here a minute ago. Ah, here it is, disappearing into the, these are transparency sheets. My mother apparently had a whole collection of them, and these are for like a laser printer, so they won't work in my printer, so I just use them to have them saved for using for projects like this. You of course can use plastic packaging like you get with your stamps come in, those sorts of things. You can buy craft plastic at the store. Whatever you've got, you can use. If you don't have anything clear, you can use vellum. It's just going to be cloudier. You're not going to see all the way through your piece. You could use packing tape. If you don't have any plastic sheets, you could sandwich your image between two pieces of packing tape and glue that in. That is going to require a slightly different technique than what we're doing, because what you're going to have to do is put your, in this case, die cut piece between on your tape, and then put a piece of tape over top to seal in the stickiness. But you could use that. So I'm obviously going to use these transparency sheets because I have them. So I'm going to cut it down to, we are 3.5 inches wide. So I think I'm going to go 3 inches wide, and with our opening, and then 2.5 inches long. And I'm going to cut 2 pieces. So 3 by 2.5, because I want to sandwich my die cut between them. And so it will fit in and go over our opening. And I think I'm gonna go ahead and glue these guys in place. And I'm gonna use my Bearly Arts glue. And I'm gonna put it a little bit above where the opening is, because you don't want your glue squishing out onto your slide. Now I could have cut the piece a little bit bigger so that I could glue even further away, but I just didn't want to waste it on plastic you weren't going to see. And just when you put it down, push away from the opening so that any glue squishiness squishes away from your opening instead of towards your opening, if that makes any sense. All right, so like that. Just make sure you don't go over your fold. So we've got our first piece in, and then we're going to add our second piece. Ooh, my glue is exploding everywhere. Tis the season of explodey glue in my world, because it's Florida and it's February. I'm filming this in February for March, but we tend to have our temperatures keep going up and down. Like the other day, our high was in the 60s, and now it's back up in the 80s, which is just insane to me. But it tends to make my glue go all kinds of explodey when we have those temperature fluctuations where it goes from being cold to hot. I get explodey glue. So what you do if your glue is doing that is you burp it, so squeeze it, put it on your lid on, and like slowly tighten it and slowly release the air. Should help with the exploding glue. And there we go. All right, I just realized I forgot something I wanted. I did get a little glue seepage there, because I want to antique up our slide a little bit. So I'm gonna go grab some alcohol ink. I'll be right back. Okay, so I grabbed some caramel blending tool. We're just gonna add a little bit on here to grunge it up. And it's okay if it gets on the paper. I'm not too worried about that. Now you could always do this before. This way you can see what we're doing before you put it in, but I'm okay with getting a little bit of the grunginess onto the paper. I'm just adding a little isopropyl alcohol to the blending tool so we can get a little bit more blending going on. And I'm just trying to make it look a little bit more intentional on the paper as well. And what I'm going to do is a quick spritz on mostly my hand onto the thing to get the ink to kind of disperse a little bit. Again, we're going to add some more and do the back side as well. Now, if you don't have alcohol inks, but do have alcohol markers, you could pull out a brown from your alcohol markers and do that. Just kind of want it a little bit uneven. So there we go. That's what our slide's grunginess is gonna look like. Let's go ahead and grab our piece that's going to get sandwiched in. So what I did is, this is one of my pieces of gel printing that I die cut this leaf die by Aall Create. And what I did was I die cut it through the inked or the painted side first. Then I ran it through a second time, but I flipped it so that I was die cutting from the back. This way I have two pieces that are the opposite of each other that I can glue together so that we have color on both sides, since our piece is see-through and you can see it from both sides. So let's glue the top bit onto the bottom bit. This, I don't know, again, I mentioned this, I think, when I used this, the rest of this die cut piece recently for another piece of this project. I don't know if it's the paper, the die, what, but this piece keeps coming out very fragile and breakable. All right, so we're just gonna trim that off. Just make sure it's lined up properly. So there's our specimen, and it is a little small. I'm kind of wondering if I need to die cut this so that I can do a bigger piece, because it is kind of tiny in there. And we're gonna go with it. Why not? All right, I'm gonna use a little bit of glue on this to kind of tack it in place. Just a teeny tiny amount. It should dry clear. Put our specimen in like that, because we're now going to glue this closed. So it's going to be sandwiched in, so it shouldn't go anywhere. And again, press from the slide bit outward so that glue seepage goes away from our opening. Now let's pull over our specimen, and somewhere buried on this desk is the stamps that I need. My desk is a bit of a mess right now. All right, so we've got our date stamp that I've been using. And so this is now day 7. I need to label the drawers furthest out for me because I can never remember which ones has the thing I need in it, or change the drawers around, because it seems that the drawer I always want is the last one I open. And as I've said in previous videos, what I'm doing is, the year I'm using for these is 1825, and my date stamp just has the 20s for the years. So I have inked just the 25, and if there's any that goes over onto the 0 of the 20, I just rub that off, and we're gonna stamp that down. Let me get my mouse pad so it stamps neatly. I got March 25, and then I just take my pen and add in the 18. I'm the collector, so I'm gonna sign here, because that's one of the parameters of the challenge, is to include the number that corresponds to the day your image is going up, and your signature. So that's gonna go there, and we're gonna do a little bit more stamping. Grab my number stamp and just cover up the numbers on here. This is Tim Holtz Stampers Anonymous. I don't remember which set, but as I've said in previous videos, I did tell you probably in the first video for the series. So I will go back and check when I do all of the editing and keep a list of all the stamps so that you know what stamps I used. This is going to be specimen number 473. That was not the greatest placement, but we shall live. And then we're gonna do our little receive stamp in red, which I know the date on this, as I've said before, is like 1944, but we're just gonna pretend. Or, you know, these were lost specimens for 100+ years. Oh, and then my filed stamp, which is over here and also going to get stamped in red. Just to fill in this spot over here. There we go. Now let's glue this piece on. And we've got a specimen slide. I like that. All right. So that's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, please do all the things that let YouTube know you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave me a comment down below. Thanks for joining me, and happy crafting.